So basically, 2 years ago, I decided to go by foot from Rome to London. Così. Who am I? Let's start with who am I. In inglese va bene?
Sì.
Sì, okay. So, I was born in Liverpool. Sono nata a Liverpool, in a city a similar size to Genova. Almost the same number of people, in the north of England. And then I went to live in Africa for a year when I was 18. I taught there for a year. And then I went to live in Scotland for a year at university, and then I moved to London for university again. And then I was in London for 11 years before I arrived here. I arrived here 1 year ago because I wanted to learn Italian, and I teach English here, and that's it. And I live in a small village in the mountains now. That's it. That's my favorite thing about Genova. Vivo in un piccolo villaggio in montagna adesso. Okay, so everything, this whole story started with the scar. I think, non mi ricordo bene, ma I think about 8 years ago, I didn't feel well. I ate some ravioli that I made myself. I didn't feel well, and a day later I was in hospital having an operation because my colon had twisted on itself, which is very unusual, and if you don't go to hospital quick enough, basically it explodes and you die. So I had a tummy ache, and then I woke up with this huge scar. And before the operation, my life was fine. I had a nice boyfriend, I had nice friends, I lived in a nice house with a garden, and I did a nice job, and everything was nice, but not very interesting. And when I had the operation, I realized I wanted to have a life that was more interesting, more exciting. I wanted to wake up and be excited for what I was going to do that day. So this operation made me realize that I wanted different things for my life. And so I was having breakfast with a friend, and he told me about this group he had created for exercise, which I said, why would I do this? I really like to sit down, and I don't really like to do exercise. But he's one of these people that's very interesting and fun to be around. So people like to spend time with him. And so I thought, okay, well, it's a group for exercise, and I don't like exercise, but I like to spend time with him. So maybe I'll go. So I went, but I had to wake up. In the video, this is what I say. I had to wake up at 4:30 in the morning because the exercise group started at 6:30 in the centre of London, and to get there I needed to take a train at 5:20. So I needed to wake up at 4:30 to get ready, to walk to the train station, to get the train at 5:20, to get into London for 6:30 for the exercise group. So I wasn't very dedicated because I didn't like exercise. But I thought, okay, it's something different, it's something unusual, and I want to do different things in my life. So it would look like this, it would be really dark, and it would look like this when we started the exercise. So I arrived at Project Awesome, and I met people.
Va bene con l'inglese?
Sì, va bene adesso? Sì. È un gruppo per l'esercizio, ma la mattina, presto, eh? Ok, at Project Awesome, at questo gruppo, I met these people. And I think when you spend time with people who are unusual or different in any way, it makes you think in a different way. So, the guy in the cap created the group. And he, I think about 5 years ago, he went with his bike from London to India because he wanted to. I think it took about 6 months. And then about 4 years ago, he created a race across America 24 hours every day, from one side of America, from Venice Beach in California to Boston, finished the whole way. It was 3 weeks, 24 hours a day. The lady on the bike, she cycled from London to New Zealand. Again, because she wanted to. She is from New Zealand and she wanted to cycle home. And on a Friday, after the exercise group, we did exercise, we had coffee, then she got on her bike and she cycled to New Zealand. And 1 year later, she arrived. As one does. In the corner there with the plats, she ran around the coast of England. It took almost a year, 10 months, because it's 5,000 miles. And she ran around it. And in fact, her parents ran with me on my first day of my run, because they were on holiday in Rome. This lady cycled to every state in America, all 50 states in America. And when I knew her, she had just started, she ran the length of New Zealand. I think it's 3,000 kilometers from the bottom to the top of New Zealand. And then she cycled to all 60 of the highest mountains in South America. Adam, in the middle, ran 15 marathons in 2015, and then in 2016 he started to cycle with his bike around the world. At the moment it's 2 years later and he is halfway. He's in Tajikistan, somewhere in the Middle East. He thinks it will take about 4 years. And the man at the bottom, his name is Alex, he's Italian actually, and he lives in Rome, and he likes to walk long distances, but very quickly try to make a new record, and to raise money for charity. So that's Alex. And the Yes Tribe is another group like Project Awesome, but without exercise. It's just people who are interested in adventure or unusual things, and we meet and we have an evening like this where people talk about interesting journeys that they've made, etc., etc. So when I arrived in Italy, actually, I made a Yes Tribe here. So we have also in Genova a Yes Tribe, and it's just a place where people can find new friends and talk about interesting things or think big instead of thinking only about work. And that's the man who created it. That's why he's there. And then we have a festival once a year called Yestival, and everyone comes along and talks about something interesting or unusual. So that's at the festival from this year.
Where does it take place?
In a field in October in England.
Remember.
Il campo in ottobre nell'Inghilterra. È un po' pazzo. Ma
You joined also this
yeah, I went in October, exactly. So for me, I started to understand that the people who make these journeys are the same as me. At first I thought, no, these people are very different, very unusual, they are very fit, maybe they do sport very often. So for me, no, it's not something for me, it's for them. And I met lots of people and they were very ordinary, very normal. And I thought, well, I am normal. I have arms and legs and a brain in my head. Why not me? They can do it. I think I can do it. Let me see, maybe I can do it. So I started to think, maybe I can make a journey, just with my legs, with my body, without a car, without wheels, anything. Let me see. And for me, because I like Italy, it was quite logical for me to do a journey here in Italy. And I found this route called the Via Francigena, and it starts in Canterbury and it finishes in Rome, but you can finish in Jerusalem. It's possible, but you would need a lot of time, I think. And so for me, I decided to do from Rome to London, because I thought it will be it will be a better reason, a better motive to go towards London, because then I will be more excited. Because, okay, I'm going home. Sto andando a casa. So I did up. But all pilgrims come down to Rome, and I went up. Which the people didn't understand. Cosa fai? In contrario. Okay, so the journey in total was 1,900 kilometers. It took me 68 days. I used 2 pairs of shoes because it's not because it takes 2 pairs of shoes, it's because I was too poor to buy more pairs of shoes. So I ran with holes in my shoes or shoes too small. Va bene. Alone, I did it alone, da sola. Con nient'altro. And I don't know if this is the right figure, but it cost about £1,000, I think. So, the preparation. How do you prepare? I ran a lot. This picture here. I ran a lot and I ate a lot. Just all the time, constant and running. I would run to work, which was 15 kilometers, and then I would run home after work. So I did 30 kilometers and a 10-hour workday, or I would run half and then use a bike for the other half. The picture next to it of the gym, on Instagram, I made an account called Running Home from Rome, and a man who owns a gym saw it, and he said, if you want to use my gym to train, then you can come for free. So I use the gym sometimes. Also, he gave me this, which is an odd kind of sleeping mat, materassino, but it's very, very, very small. Like you can put like this when it's together, because it has here the holes, so it was very light to carry. At the top, in the park, I practiced sleeping outside under the stars, sotto le stelle, because I knew that sometimes on my journey I would need to sleep outside. My friend made a logo, so there you go. Oh, now it's official. Before I thought maybe yes, maybe no. We made a logo. Ok, adesso vado. Now I have to go, devo andare adesso perché c'è un logo. Anche una pagina di Facebook. Quando questo, ok, adesso devo andare. Because now it's on Facebook, now it's life. Facebook è la vita, no? Okay, this life straw, it has inside a filter so that you can drink water that is not clean. Which means you don't need to carry with you water too much, because otherwise your bag is very, very, very heavy, which it was. But with this I could carry less water, made it easier. And in this picture is everything I took, and everything on that picture was given to me by my friends, because I have friends who do adventures. So I bought the sleeping bag, but everything else was given to me by my friends. I have very kind friends. So for the equipment, I just took what people gave me. And part of the reason I did it was because a friend of mine, whose name is Dave, he is one of the leaders at Project Awesome. His son, at this time, had brain cancer. And Ronald McDonald House, do you know? Lo sapete, Ronald McDonald House? It's a house near to the hospital, una casa vicino all'ospedale per I bambini. And so if the family, che la famiglia deve stare vicino con I bambini, they can live in this house. So my friend Dave, his son had brain cancer, and so he lived for some time, stayed in this house, a casa di Ronald McDonald, perché è più facile con la famiglia vicino durante questi tempi. So the one in Manchester was where my friend stayed. Also, when I was a child, I had an operation on my hip, and my family also stayed in a Ronald McDonald house, but in Liverpool. So for me, it's an important place, and for my friend, it was important. And so I used my run to raise money, and in fact, we raised £4,500 in total during the run for the house. Ok, il primo giorno sulla via Francigena. Okay, so the first thing I understood in Rome, I was with my friend's parents. The first thing I understood when I ran was that my bag was very heavy. Because at home, I weighed it, and it was 11 kilometers, 11 kilograms, 11 kg a casa mia prima, ma metto una, ok, questa, anche questa. Ok, anche questa è importante, e poi 15. But I did, at this time, on the first day, I didn't know, non capivo questo. But after 2 weeks, dopo 2 settimane, sulla via Francigena, my friend weighed con una bilancia, and it was 15 kilograms. But I preferred not to know, because when you know, then it is more difficult. It's useless to know. Inutile. So, my first day on the Via Francigena. So I went with my friend's parents. We ran up the Monte Mario. Then they went back to Rome. And then I went by myself. And I got hungry. And I was looking for somewhere to eat. I couldn't see anywhere. But I saw a McDonald's. So my first meal, il primo pasto sulla Via Francigena, era McDonald's. So, life as a pilgrim. So I ate McDonald's, and then this situation occurred. Because I saw on the map a road that was going like this. Destra, sinistra, destra, sinistra, destra, sinistra. And I said, but I don't want to do this, non voglio questo. Sinistra, destra, non voglio. Perché c'è una strada così. Ok, fantastico per me. C'è una strada dritta. It was a straight road instead of like this. So I went on this straight road. Now I understand that when there is a straight road, you don't go on that road, because the Via Francigena è così. Because I was walking, running, correvo. Adesso c'è l'autostrada. Sono sull'autostrada. Ok, va bene. I was on the motorway. And so I just thought, never mind. I'll just go. I'm sure it's fine. And it became more difficult. And there was a fence, un recinto qui. And behind there was I rovi, eccetera. Così. With, I saw snakes. C'era un serpente. Also rubbish, rifiuti. Like I saw a wardrobe, un armadio. Qui. Ok, va bene. Così. And after maybe 2 hours, like this, a policeman stopped in a car. And he said, got out and he said, cosa fai? What are you doing? And I was like, well, actually, I don't know. But I said, mi scusi, sono una pellegrina. And this is fantastic, because whenever you do something stupid, you say, mi scusi, sono una pellegrina. And they go, okay. The pilgrims don't, she's stupid, they don't. The pilgrims don't know. And so it's perfect. Sono una pellegrina. E poi tutto andrà bene. And so I said, I'm a pilgrim. And he said, okay, in 5 minutes more, you reach a bridge over the road, and then you can find a town where you can stop. Because it was towards the evening, maybe 5 p.m. So I climbed out, and I got to the town, and my legs looked like this. I don't know if you can see, but it's like correre, it's like a mess. Yeah. And maybe for 3 or 4 days, I had here like blood and cuts and everything. And that was my first day on the road. So this is the type of pilgrim I am. it progresses as such. Okay, La Via Francigena. The signage, sometimes you find like this, a sign, a proper sign. Either with a person here, per escursionismo, or with a bike, because you can do by bike as well, or you see with a car. Sometimes you see with a horse, with a picture of a horse, because it's possible to go by horse to do this route. I didn't see anyone on a horse, but you can. There are signs. Sometimes the signs are just some paint on a wall, rosso bianco, red and white stripes on a wall, and then you understand which way to go. In Italy, the signs aren't amazing. In Switzerland, they're very good, and in France, they're very good. And in England, they're okay as well. But in Italy, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But that is fun. The via itself. So this is a Roman road, a very, very, very old Roman road. And it's it's in the Aosta Valley, near to Venice. I don't know if the pronunciation is correct. Near to Venice, in the Aosta Valley, in the Val d'Aosta. And this is near to Lake Bolsena, and it's Etruscan. So it's really like even older. And it's really nice to walk on this way because it's in nature. And sometimes you see on the ground like hazelnuts. You can take the hazelnuts, you just break them with your shoe. And you can eat hazelnuts or figs or apple trees and like oranges and lots of stuff. So in Italy it was quite easy with food because I could just eat from nature. Later it became more difficult because it was cold. When I was in France, there's not so many places. But in Italy, I could eat every day from nature. It was nice. Okay, the highs and lows of the Via Francigena. So, on day 4, after 4 days with 15 kg così, 15 kilograms like this, and running, and it was something new, qualcosa nuovo per me, it was difficult for my shoulders qui. Era difficile perché c'è una like a lump like this, and on my back as well, qui. So I was just like broken, rota. And I arrived in this place and they had a sign. They said it's free for the pilgrims to come inside with a pilgrim passport. So this is your pilgrim passport. So when you are a pilgrim, you take this. Every time you stop somewhere, they put the stamp, il timbro, e poi la data. And then you can stay in the church, in the convent, or anything else. This is your the credenziali. This is the most important thing when you're a pilgrim. So you show this, and then it's free, senza il pagamento. So you go in, and it's fantastic for your back, and it feels so nice. It feels so nice, and you sit for a minute. And after maybe 10 minutes, I looked, and I thought, okay, the water here is a bit strange. It's a bit grey. Why is it grey? And I noticed inside the water were small pieces of something grey. And then I realised, is that other people's skin. Pieces of the other people's skin in the water. And when you put like this in the water, the skin settles. It's the other people's skin. So that was nice. It was free, with a free gift of skin. The highs and lows of the Via. Okay, Tuscany was my favourite part of the trip, obviously, because Tuscany è così. This on the side here, I stayed in this convent. They didn't want to let me stay, but I was tired and I almost cried. And then they said, okay, you can stay. Because there were men, and I think they were a bit scared. And so they said, okay, that's fine, you can stay. And when I woke up in the morning, I stayed, they had some bedrooms inside the convent in San Gimignano for pilgrims. And when I woke up in the morning, I opened my eyes, and I sat up, and this was my view of the Val d'Orcia. It was beautiful, really amazing. And the accommodation in Tuscany is wonderful as well because they like very much to help with the pilgrims there. Okay. la mia vita della pellegrina. Okay, so this day, can you see here? There's something, some dots, white dots, I punti bianchi. So one day, after maybe 3 or 4 weeks, I was running and I thought, pilgrim, I'm strong with my backpack. I can run many kilometers, maybe 40 chilometri in un giorno. Sono molto forte, I guess, running. And I was on a dairy farm, a farm with cows, and I realized, okay, I lost the Via Francigena. Ho perso la Via Francigena, ovviamente. So I said, okay, never mind. There's a road here. C'è una strada là. So I will go to the road and try to find the next village on the Via Francigena, and then find the signs, and maybe I can join again. Okay. So I go, but there is a small river in the way. Fiume ma piccolo, non c'è un problema. So I decide to jump, because it's so small, I jump, no problem. So I jump, and then there's a problem, because I jump in the nettles. Un cespuglio le ortiche, così, salta così. Because non c'è problema. Qui, ok, c'è un problema. Okay. Everything here, you see, punti bianchi. All my legs, tutti le gambe, anche qui, perché così, qui. For three nights, while I slept with a blanket, con la coperta là, like this. E poi la vita della pellegrina, sono stupida. So, this was how I did the pilgrimage. I think most people don't do these things. Lombardia. I arrived there 1 week after they cut the rice. So, it was very flat. And for 3 days was nothing to see. Nothing. Mountains, nothing. Just very flat, and quite difficult, because there's nothing to think about. There's nothing interesting to see. You're just like, okay, it's me. And it was, I didn't realize at the time, but it was a test for when I arrived in France later, which was even more difficult. But yes, in Lombardia is very nice places to stay for the pilgrims. Because they have houses that they are run by volunteers that are just for the pilgrims. And you have also a lot of local restaurants. They give a special discount for pilgrims. Solo per I pellegrini, per esempio, it's €8, for the first plate, primo piatto, second plate, secondo piatto, acqua e poi vino. So water and wine. You can have all this. It's just €8 for pilgrims with your passport. And they like very much the pilgrims there. The Alps. So, guess what happened? This is how I'm a pilgrim. A little bit stupid. Because Italy was so much fun, I took too long. So I spent maybe 8 days not moving, just having fun. And so when I reached the Alps, it was closed. The pass was closed, chiuso. So it wasn't possible for me to go over the Alps. So I had to go to a certain point and then take a bus under, and then I started again in Switzerland. Oops. Switzerland. Switzerland was very beautiful and very expensive. So I went very quickly, just 4 days for the whole country. I was like, okay, bye. So on my first day I arrived, and there was a place like a convent where the pilgrims can stay, but it was like also a conference center. So people, not pilgrims, can stay there as well. So I arrived, and I said, 1 room, please. And he said, great, €75. And I was like, ma scusa? Solo una pellegrina. A pilgrim, right? She's like, okay, special price, 60 euros. Just 60 euros for pilgrims. I was like, okay, great, thanks for the discount. And it had also breakfast. So I went the next morning and I was like, I will eat the breakfast because I paid for the breakfast. And I stayed for 1 hour and I ate until I couldn't move. And I thought I was going to vomit. But I paid €60, so I needed to eat everything. It was a buffet. You could go up many times. I went 8 times. And every time I took too much food. So then they regretted it. I regretted it. So yeah, it's like this. It's very, very beautiful. But you go quickly. So, in Switzerland, the people are very sophisticated. Very sophisticated. When it's raining, or when there's snow, or when it's very hot, they are still very sophisticated, very fashionable. But when you're a pilgrim, after 6 weeks, you don't really care. You just want to find some food and a place to sleep. That's all that's important. So I was in Switzerland and it was raining. And I had a red jumper on, orange leggings, a pink raincoat over the top, but over everything, like a hunchback, eh? Gombo, is that how we say a hunchback? A person with a hump here? So this is how I looked. And in Switzerland, the people would stop everything when I walked past. Like they're eating in a restaurant and then they're just like... Even the dogs didn't do anything. They're like, meow, meow, meow. And some people like laughed a bit. I saw them laugh. I was like, it's fine. Sono una pellegrina. I'm a pilgrim. I'm allowed to do anything. So this is how I looked in Switzerland. The people didn't. I think they thought, who does she think she is? She's not allowed in. They don't let you over the border if you look like this. Then France. So, France was probably the biggest challenge of the whole thing because I didn't meet any pilgrims in France. In Italy, every day you meet maybe 10 or 15 people you can talk to. There's some company. And in France, I met one pilgrim right before I left France. So there's no one to really talk to. And I stayed in this abbey. It was very, very peaceful. And they gave me lots of food and they invited me for prayers. I said, okay, I'll go because they invited me. And then they asked me to read something in French, which was a disaster, obviously, because I don't speak French. Non parlo bene, I don't speak any French. And I had to blah, 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 say something in French. And so for 3 weeks in France, without a rest. I went without taking any days to rest. Because it's big, and it's very empty, and there's nothing to do. When you stop, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to see. You can't be a tourist in this part of France because it's very big and very empty. So I was in this forest for 9 hours. Per 9 ore, così, in this forest. I thought I was going to die in this forest. I didn't, thankfully. So it's difficult because there's no one to talk to, and there's nothing apart from your own thoughts, and that's when you discover that you're a bit mad. But this one day, the huge size of France, and without any people, was all too much. Because I arrived in the town, and I knew that there maybe was a house for pilgrims, maybe. But I needed to wait for the comune to open in 2 hours. If the comune opened in 2 hours and there was no house for pilgrims, then I had nowhere to sleep. If I went to the next town, I didn't understand if there was a house because I called, but I don't speak French, so I don't know why I called. So I didn't know what to do. So I had to wait 2 hours for the comune, but maybe even there wouldn't be anyone. And it started to rain, and I was standing outside, and it was raining and it was cold, and I heard the bells in the church. So I went to the church, and I sat down, and I just cried for about 2 hours while I waited for the community to open. I just cried because I was lonely and there was no one to talk to. And even if there were people, I couldn't speak to them because I don't speak French. So, in the church. And a lady saw me and she didn't talk to me because I think she thought I was having a moment with Jesus or I was crying. I was not. But then the Comune opened after 2 hours and I got the keys to a house and I stayed there and everything was fine. But this for me was the most difficult time in France because there was really, really, really no one. Pilgrim life. This is what we call an adventure tan. Bianco, marrone. So can you see there, just under the shorts? Qui e qui. So that's adventure life. And on the right is what would happen to socks after 4 days. So I would buy socks, and 4 days later I could see my toes. So I think the money I spent, at least half, was on socks. At least half. So after France, finally after 3 weeks of nothing, of no one, I got the boat to England. And a friend of mine lives near to Canterbury, so she took me with her car and she gave me a bath. I think she thought I needed it, and some new clothes. And then took me back to where I started, and I ran the final part to Canterbury. And I met the priest there, this lady, and she wanted a picture so she could put it on her Twitter account. And so she put up on Twitter that she met me. She said a prayer for me, and on the right they have in Canterbury some windows, stained glass windows, which have the story of the pilgrims going to Rome. So that's why I'm next to that window. The priest said that when she wasn't on Twitter, she would use Pokemon Go a lot. You know Pokemon Go, where you walk around and you catch the Pokemon? She would do that when there was no one who needed prayers. She would go and catch Pokemon outside the church. Cathedral. And then finally I got to London and I finished. I have another adventure tan there on my shoulder. It's white on my shoulder and then brown on my arm. And this is my nephew, and I hadn't seen him for 2.5 months, so I didn't realise he'd grown a lot. So I arrived, and I was so excited to see him that I picked him up, and I ran up the road, the final part of my journey. I ran holding him, and he was actually heavier than my backpack. So by the time I arrived, I was like, oh, goodness me. And so when I arrived, we just fell onto the front doorstep. And then that's my friend's daughter who arrived also. And a lot of my friends and family waited for me where I was finishing. So when I got home, we had a big party, and then I had finished. And it was fab. After you arrive in Rome, because usually the pilgrims go to Rome, you arrive, you show your passport, and you collect a certificate which has the Pope's signature on it. Very exciting. So I arrived in Canterbury and I asked, can I get a certificate? And they said, we don't do the certificate in Canterbury because the pilgrims never come this way. They never do it that way up. It's quite unusual for someone to come to Canterbury. So we don't keep here the certificate. And so in August, I went with some friends to Luxembourg, and there was a problem with the flight. And on the way back, we had to go to Rome to change flights. And we had like 6 hours in between. And so we went into Rome, to the Vatican, and I finally collected a certificate. But when I arrived, the lady said, you can't take the certificate here because it's when the pilgrims arrive in Rome, then they get the certificate. So I said, scusa, il certificato è per arrivo o per facevo il pellegrinaggio? È per il pellegrinaggio, no? Non perché arrivo qui, è perché ho fatto il pellegrinaggio. And she said, okay. She went away quietly and she came back with a certificate and was like, okay. And reluctantly wrote my name. But when we looked on my passport, My first stamp is from Rome 2 years ago, and she looked and she said, but I did this, because that's my handwriting. So I stamped this 2 years ago, and then she was the same woman that I arrived to ask for the certificate. I was like, well then, I'll have a certificate, thank you. So now I have it, and it's at home in my bedroom. So it took 2 years for me to get the certificate, but now I have. So when you are a pilgrim, part of the thing that's very nice about being a pilgrim is that you connect very quickly with people, because you all live in this place that's slightly outside of the normal society. So people are they have to get to their job on time, they have to have enough money for the rent, blah, blah, blah. And you don't have any of these thoughts. These things aren't important as a pilgrim. You just need to make the miles and arrive at a place where you can eat and sleep. So you live on in a different way to most people. So when you meet people, you connect with them very quickly, you make friends very quickly. So I met this lady, just this lady. I met her at their house. This couple did the pilgrimage about 10 years ago together, and their house is near to the Via Francigena. And so now, every evening, they put a sign outside their house, and they say, come, you can stay in our house if you want, if you're a pilgrim. So you can arrive at their house, they will invite you for dinner, give you coffee, shower, anything you need. And then they have a room in their house that's just for pilgrims, and you eat a meal together, and then you eat breakfast together, and then you go on. And they just, every day they have with them pilgrims, sometimes 10, sometimes 2, and it's they do it not for money. They do it because they understand what it's like to be a pilgrim. The man in the middle, I met him when the weather was starting to become cold, and I had no jumper with me, or coat really, because I don't plan things. And he gave me his jumper so that I wouldn't get cold, which is very nice. He lives in Rome. This man, I met him on his bike. He, at the moment, is cycling the second part of the Via Francigena to Jerusalem at this moment. This man in the middle, he's just very sporty, and he's coming to Geneva on Sunday to run the marathon, actually. So I'll have a coffee with him. And then the other man in the corner, because you connect with people when you're a pilgrim, you connect very quickly. So instead of, if I meet someone in the street, maybe I will say, like, hi, how are you? Great, okay, so we seem to be maybe like friends, and so you go for a coffee. But when you're a pilgrim and you meet someone and you chat and it's nice, you're like, oh my goodness, I love you, definitely. Immediately, because your emotions are so, your emotions are so much bigger, I guess. So everything that happens feels more extreme. And so we chatted for about half an hour, and then I was convinced that I was in love with him. And I proceeded to be in love with him for about 8 days. And then we turned back into normal people and realised it was ridiculous. Other pilgrims. So since I did my run, some other friends who like to do this type of thing also have done the Via Francigena. So my friend Lawrence ran from England to Croatia, and he arrived last Wednesday in Croatia. It took him 3 months, and I ran with him for a day from Mortara to Pavia. Alex at the top walked from the Gran San Bernardo, the pass at the border, down to Rome, and I went with him for 1 day also, near to Piacenza. Ross, over there with his bag, he ran from England to Sicily, and then Dan at the bottom did the same as me, from Rome to London. And I spent a day with all of them during their journeys. The things I learned. I think one of the most important things I learned is about how to accept kindness. Because when you're on the road and you have nothing, people want to help you, and your instinct is to say, no, I'm fine, va bene, no, I don't need anything. But actually, when you're a pilgrim, you do need things. So you have to learn how to say yes to the things. Because when people want to help you and you say no, you prevent them from having that opportunity. They want to help you. So accepting kindness is one of the biggest things you have to learn when you're a pilgrim, because you need that kindness, you need those things from people. And it's really nice because the other people are also enjoying the fact that they can help you with something. And it's a really nice thing to learn that we don't need to learn in everyday life, because we don't generally need things from other people. We go to our jobs, we have enough money, we have enough food, we don't really need the things. But when you say yes anyway, then you create a moment between yourself and that person who wanted to help you. And there's something very nice about that. And you don't get that if you continually say no when people want to help. Another thing I learned is that it's very easy in life for something quickly to change that changes you as a person slightly. And every person that you meet and everything that you do and every situation that you encounter changes you a little bit, or you learn something from it. And so I understood that it's, for me personally, it's not important to know who am I. I think people think that's an important thing to know about yourself. Who am I? What kind of person am I? Blah, blah, blah. Who am I really? And for me, it's not important, because the person I am today is not the person I'll be tomorrow, or the person I was 10 years ago. I'm very different from the person I was 10 years ago. So it's the only thing for me that's important in this sense is to understand who I am right now. I think I know who that is. And not to try and put myself in a place where I understand, where I think I understand completely who I am, because you don't allow change when that happens. I think it's important to allow change because it happens to you, regardless of whether you want it to or not. I also learned that you can sleep anywhere, or I can sleep anywhere. I think the strangest place I slept was in the washing machine room on a campsite, because I went to the campsite, but it rained so much I couldn't put my tent up. So I slept on the concrete floor in the room with the washing machines. I think that was the weirdest and most uncomfortable I've ever been in my life. I think those are all the things I learned. And I learned that it's possible to do things that you think aren't. You just try them. Because the more often you try things that are different or that seem impossible and it's successful, the more you understand that it will be successful when you try again. So when I learned that I could go with my legs 1,900 kilometers with the help of a bus under the Alps, then other things seemed possible. So I moved to Italy without a job, without a plan, and without really enough Italian, if I'm being honest. But I thought it's fine, because whenever I jump, things go well. So now I know that when I jump, things will land fine. Probably things will land fine. But when you don't jump, or when you don't expose yourself to new experiences very regularly, you have a fear that things won't be okay, but they generally are. So, jump. Gosh.
Domande?
Yeah, do you have any questions? How did you not die?
Dico, quanto tempo hai dedicato per prepararti? Per prepararti?
Oh! I decided in January, e poi a gennaio ho deciso di fare questo, a gennaio. Il primo giorno era a settembre, e poi 9 mesi, più o meno.
9 mesi di preparazione?
Sì, ma è possibile meno, perché ma è possibile fare senza preparazione, perché quando quando si corre, allenare così. Per 2 settimane è difficile, sì, per 2 settimane, ma è possibile dopo 2 settimane, perché vado e poi allenare così. È possibile senza preparazione, davvero.
Per il cibo cosa scegli?
Per il cibo, perché in quel momento sono stata ero una vegana, più o meno una vegana. E poi il pane molto in Francia, fellone, ma 3 in un giorno, 3, ogni giorno 3 fellone. Anche la frutta, verdura, è possibile con la frutta dagli alberi, eccetera, eccetera. Non so, cioccolato, molto. What do we call it? Tablet? Sì. Di cioccolato in Francia è possibile così, enorme. Ogni giorno uno di questo e poi 3 fellone. Perché a Francia è molto difficile trovare il cibo, perché qualche volta 2 o 3 giorni senza una persona, senza un negozio. Poi è difficile un po', perché 3 fellone mangio adesso, sì, voglio, mangio adesso, ma forse no, perché non so un posto per il cibo, non so dove. Molto tutto, verdure, frutte, eccetera, eccetera. Banane anche, perché ha l'energia. Pane e cioccolato. Per la maggior parte, pane e cioccolata.
E dopo questa avventura?
Questa è Italia, era la prossima avventura. Sì, ma voglio molto, voglio andare all'Alta Via. Forse è necessario 10 giorni per questa, ma dopo un po' di tempo voglio voglio la costa dell'Italia in totale. Ma è 6.000 chilometri, forse un anno per questa.
6.000 chilometri.
Ma forse un giorno, voglio andare, questa è la costa, ma non lo so, perché anche con Sicilia sì o no, o con Sardegna sì o no, non lo so. Un programma per questa. Preparo un programma per questa.
Bene, grazie di tutto.